Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 94. He's Dave Bryan, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being here this Tuesday, Steelers Nation. We got a jam-packed show today. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And we have some really surprising news. You know, the old Tomlin phrase is, we want volunteers, not hostages. And thank goodness for the LA Rams and the LA Chargers, because apparently they volunteered to be on Hard Knocks this year as the first time ever two teams have been featured, of course, in the same area. And so, will Hard Knocks even happen? That's debatable, but the Steelers will not be featured, and no one has to be happier about that than Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, and company.
Yeah, that was, I put out there on Twitter a few days ago, it looks like, the Steelers might escape Hard Knocks, but I was thinking more just because of the coronavirus, possibly impacting that. But, the report this morning from Adam Schefter saying, this is yet to be obviously confirmed by the league, but Hard Knocks may get the Rams and the Chargers. Obviously which of the two teams would have had to have volunteered? The Rams, right?
I mean, I don't know the logistics. Could the Chargers have tried to do it for the exposure element of it? I have no idea what the process was there.
I mean, the Rams was just in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Right.
So
neither team was eligible in terms of they had to do it, so they both had to volunteer.
Right, both had to volunteer, and that's I don't know why a team would do that, but
right.
And weren't the Rams just on how long ago?
3 years ago they were on.
Was it 3 years ago that the Rams were on?
That's what I read.
Well, needless to say, I mean, this is the big news right now for the Steelers during the offseason at this point. Right now, we'll wait and see if they have Hard Knocks at all. But this is obviously big because, in my opinion, it was going to be Steelers or bust in this thing. Now, the only kind of saving grace maybe was the Steelers being in the Hall of Fame game and reporting to training camp an extra week early, and maybe that would have played some small part potentially in getting them out of it. But I tell you, the Steelers, obviously, nobody in the organization, upper organization wanted Hard Knocks there. So, and especially Mike Tomlin. So, if they're able to get out of this, which is looking like that they will, they better get themselves back in the playoffs here moving forward and not give Hard Knocks an opportunity to get them again.
I feel like Sean McVay and Anthony Lynn might have a couple of Rolexes sent in their mail from one Mr. Tomlin. I don't know. I feel like maybe Tomlin had to bribe somebody.
I like this show, but I've liked it less, I think, over the years. The build up to the one last year. I was one of the ones saying, man, it's got to be the Raiders that gets chosen for Hard Knocks this year. Well, ultimately it was. But to me, you didn't see it. Did you watch it or no?
Just clips. I don't even have HBO. I don't think so. I couldn't see the whole thing.
Well, the opening segment was the best part. And outside of that, to me, because obviously AB wasn't around for most of it, and to me, it kind of laid a dud. It didn't live up to expectations there. So I don't know if it's just. Just kind of, it's not new anymore and expectations are high or what. But, we'll see what happens with the Rams and Chargers now.
From a fan standpoint, though, I am kind of bummed that they're not going to do Hard Knocks because that would have been a look behind the curtain that we've never gotten before. The Steelers are pretty private in that regard, so that would have been fun to watch.
Yeah, look, I mean, it would have kept us busy, especially as bloggers, right? Recapping that stuff and it would have been interesting to see. I admit that, but really, if you want to be a selfish Steelers fan, you should hope that stuff doesn't ever come to town because it can serve as a distraction. Your fan side gets appeased by seeing, what kind of some of the stuff that happens behind the curtain. But make no mistake about it, the Steelers weren't going to let anything monumental get out anyway. And the whole player cuts and stuff like that, Colbert and Tomlin believe those are super private moments, not suitable for a camera. So I doubt we would have seen that. We would have seen some good storylines, for some players and things like that. But overall, if you're a fan, you should be glad that it looks like the Steelers won't be on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, from that standpoint, because there would have been that negative element. Obviously, that's the reason why Tomlin, Rooney, and company had no desire to be on Hard Knocks, and now they won't be, so they get their wish. Speaking of which, just a real quick aside here. Speaking, you mentioned Hall of Fame and jogged my memory. Donnie Shell announced that his daughter April will be his presenter for the Hall of Fame, and Troy Polamalu was reportedly going to announce his presenter over the weekend. The Hall of Fame ended up deleting that tweet. No announcements been made, as far as I'm aware. So that's been pushed back a little bit. So if you saw that news, unless I missed something as I was recording this podcast, Troy has not named his presenter yet.
Yeah, I think they pulled that back. They deleted that tweet and everything that went along with it there. So I'm willing to bet that Troy has pushed back his date there. It's not a big deal they should choose who they want to choose. I was a little bit surprised that Tony Dungy wasn't chosen by Donnie Shell, either Mel Blount or Tony Dungy being chosen. But it makes sense, obviously, to have family do it, if you can, and that was good to see.
Yeah, I think a nice gesture. I think Shell talked about how he wanted to have someone present him in a different light, where it's not someone that knew him as the football player, but knew him as a father, as a person. I think that's really cool. And so I just hope there's a Hall of Fame to present this year. Obviously, that could very much be disrupted by this whole process. So fingers crossed for that. Speaking of the disruption of the NFL, the league in a memo sent out to all 32 teams by Roger Goodell yesterday said that the draft will be entirely held virtually. No teams are allowed at their team facility this year, and as far as I'm aware, basically no one is allowed to be in the same place together draft-wise. Everyone has to be in their separate houses by themselves. You can't gather at everybody's house, for example. I know there were some ideas that some teams were trying to go to a location to all hang out with for the draft process. Not going to be allowed, so it'll be a draft unlike any other for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, they'll get to draft fantasy style, right?
Basically, they'll be like you.
Online fantasy style. They ought to have little chat rooms set up so they can talk trash to each other there. But look, we're in unprecedented times right now, right? And it makes sense. The thing is boy, the Steelers really pride themselves on the things that they do. Would kind of, and I'm talking about the whole pre-draft process as well too now. And this is just one other interruption. Now your board should obviously be set by then, and there's probably not too many. Not having a first round draft pick this year would kind of lessen probably some of the discussions. You probably put your board up and roll with it there. And obviously, I'm sure they'll all be hooked up via Zoom or something, to have their conversations during the draft there. But this is just one other reminder that we're living in really different times right now, right?
Absolutely, and it'll be a challenge for all 32 teams. There's no doubt about that. I think the Steelers have a leg up, and I've talked about this a couple times because, they don't have the first-round picks. They don't have to worry about the guesswork of how they're going to handle the first-round situation because they just get to sit back and watch and smile and wave. And the other factor is just the consistency and continuity with head coach, GM, the whole scouting department has been there for at least 5+ years. It's just that model of stability, so you don't have to worry about process and expectation. Like if you're a new coach with a new scouting staff, or even maybe the old scouting staff, for example, you're dealing with those obvious issues just in general on top of the one-of-a-kind nature of this draft. And that's going to be an extra stressor in this process. Not the case for Pittsburgh. They know how to draft. They know the process. They know expectations. They've been through this song and dance before. Obviously, doing it from home and not having the information is going to be a challenge, but that's unique. That's common to every single team. So I think Pittsburgh just having that continuity and stability is going to let them deal with this crisis better than maybe a team that's pretty brand new.
We would like to think so and hope so, but there was also another kind of interesting report this morning, correct?
Yeah, Kevin Colbert trying to combat the issues and that uniqueness of the NFL draft. For according to, I think, the New York Post. Correct me if I'm getting the publication wrong on that. Was it the Times, right, or was it the Post?
I don't know. Manish Mehta.
Okay, let me pull up here and make sure I get the right publication. But Kevin Colbert, New York Daily News. We're both wrong.
Okay, New York Daily News.
One of them. Kevin Colbert reportedly proposed a 10-round draft in order to try to give teams more of an opportunity to just have more picks. So kind of going, well, last time was a 10-round draft, 80s. Not used to do a 9-round draft, I guess, but that I assume has not passed. Not really gained a whole lot of traction. But Colbert's proposal was to do an extra 3 rounds in the draft. And Colbert's talked about how the toughest part of the evaluation might be the undrafted guys this year, where it's just really hard to get a good feel for them in that process. And I'm guessing that's why Colbert wanted to do an extra 3 rounds. It's kind of the undrafted portion of things, but this is not going to happen for the NFL.
Yeah, and Colbert would not report or would not comment on this report. So that's what we have to go with. It's a he said basically a report. So when it comes to this, it'll be interesting here because normally right ahead of the draft, Kevin Colbert kind of does the media rounds, right?
Well, are they still going to do Colbert and Tomlin's little sit down before the draft? Do you have any idea if that's going to happen?
I don't know.
I mean, obviously they're not going to sit down, but like a conference call.
That's a great question. I don't have an answer to. I mean, will they have a conference call that will they have one, and B, will it be kind of open to fans, or will it be one of those closed media ones, and then we get to hear it kind of secondhand? I don't know.
But I would expect it would be just media, like it's always been. I just wonder if they're going to have one at all.
Well, usually though they televise that though. I mean, or at least but live stream it.
Sure, but there's no fan.
Right.
Well, you're just asking in terms of the way that they broadcast it.
Right.
Oh.
Not that they'd open up for fans. What I mean is just traditionally you're watching that along with the media, in real time. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that. And usually, I think doesn't Colbert usually do a couple radio spots ahead of the draft? As well, seems like sometimes he does, but anyway.
Well, I guess this past week was kind of his media rounds, I would guess.
Yeah, maybe so. But either way, 10 rounds would be interesting. Where does it help?
Well, I think it's going to help with the undrafted process, and to take away some of the craziness of that process, which is already crazy in general. It's just this bidding war once the draft ends, and makes it even harder this year with the evaluation and the guesswork of it. I guess that's Colbert's rationale. It's not obviously going to help you in the first 7 rounds. It's not going to change the equation there, really. So it's going to just an odds game where you just add more volume to the draft, and hopefully that allows teams to hit more a little bit better at a better rate. So obviously it didn't pass. I'm not crazy about the idea. I don't hate the idea, but it's not something that I think is like, wow, they really should have done that.
If you make it, I don't know how many, what kind of time limit you would put on a round. I mean, obviously you don't want that thing to drag out anything any more than it is. But I mean, if you put like a 2-minute time limit on it or something, teams ought to be able to rattle that off really quick, you would think, right?
Yeah. Speaking of time limits, are they going to extend the draft in the 7 rounds in terms of the clock time that's going to be allotted, or is it going to be the same too? Because I can see there definitely being issues with just trying to communicate in the 15 minutes and trying to if there's any technical issues, then that's going to even make it harder. So I wonder if the NFL is going to make these rounds a little bit longer.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on that, but I wouldn't think that they would, but we'll see.
Yeah. And we'll see. Again, the technical issues are they could pop up where, if there's some sort of just glitch or, someone's connection is poor, that could really create a problem. So, the IT guys are going to be the MVPs of the draft, really, I think.
Yeah, you better, I always had the motto, be prepared. Better have a backup plan if something were to go, have a snafu or something like that,
Yeah, I mean, what if Bill O'Brien has dial-up? I mean, the Texans don't get the draft, I guess. There's no one to talk to. I mean, it's just it's a party of one. But, yeah, a draft unlike any other, it's going to affect all teams negatively, of course. But I think, again, the Steelers are better equipped to handle this draft than most teams for the reasons I outlined earlier. Dave, where do you want to go from here? You want to stick with the NFL and talk about Ben, or do you want to kick over and really keep with the draft conversation?
Yeah, let's get the newsy stuff out of the way.
Good call. Ben Roethlisberger talked to Ed Bouchette of The Athletic yesterday and basically just said, had OTAs been a thing, because they're now canceled, I think officially, or if not, they're about to be canceled officially. He says he would have been ready for OTAs, and the plan was what had been outlined this whole time for many months now, that get ready for OTAs, be ready to start throwing there, and then be really full go for training camp. So he says that had OTAs been a thing, he would have been ready and been throwing. So we'll never know for sure because they're not going to happen. But again, all positive news on the Roethlisberger front.
And I think he commented in that article as well, too, or in that interview, that they've kind of even decided to kind of click it back a little bit. right now. So just to make sure that he doesn't overdo it. And he talked about how he the warm up kind of throws and how there's a chip in the football, that they've had for several years now, evidently that gives them reports on spin rate and velocity and those kind of things. So they can really measure every aspect of this thing. I think he said he warms up with 10-yard throws, and he says he's not really putting a lot of mustard on anything yet, even though he feels like he probably could. Just kind of a day-to-day situation there, and obviously had they had OTAs and he participated in them, I can't see where they would have been very where that would have included him being going all out, if you will. They were going to really probably keep that dialed down as well too. And who knows, maybe it's a blessing that he does, because how Ben is, and probably wanting to go guns blazing in this
super
thing.
Competitive.
Super competitive. Maybe it's a bit of a blessing that he's not going to have the opportunity to get out there and have someone say, let's see you put some zip on it, and maybe do more damage than he did good. So obviously that's just speculation, glass half full stuff on my part there. But the fact of the matter is it does still seem like he is ahead, he's on schedule or ahead of schedule or whatnot. And, to me, there's no, really at this point, no news is really good news, moving forward. And we'll obviously, I think he would probably expect to be dialed down to some degree at training camp. Heck, they've got 15 quarterbacks on the roster right now. I'm obviously being being funny there, but I mean they've got quite a few of them that they really can take it easy on him during training camp. He obviously wouldn't play during probably the first couple of preseason games, and heck, how much in preseason will he even play at this point? Probably the third preseason game and maybe a couple snaps in the second one. That might be about it for him. So no news is good news until we have any kind of reason to kind of worry about this comeback. We shouldn't.
The concern I have is just the Steelers had a very clear plan with this thing. Ben was going to rehab, be ready for OTAs. That would kind of ease him probably during the spring, and then training camp they would start really kind of getting after this thing. Now you have no OTAs. Training camp's still uncertain of how much we're going to have, if we're going to have it. Ditto with the preseason. And now you have to kind of really work this line in a couple month span of maybe even a month span. How do you balance between easing him into things, not overdoing it, as you said, but also making sure that his arm is ready and he feels ready to go for the season. If you have, let's just say that, we have training camp and everything stays on schedule that way. How do you kind of juggle a month and a half you have of preseason and training camp before the regular season starts, of trying to get Ben easing in again because he has no OTAs to throw to, and then still getting him ready for the season. So, in that way, it's kind of muddy those plans up probably more than the team would like.
Yeah, but that's what you have doctors for, right?
Right, but the doctors may say, well, you got to take a longer period of time here. We don't want to squeeze this whole thing into a month and think he's ready.
I think you just lay it out as best as you can, and have a regimen, have them stick to it, and monitor that regimen, and probably have at some obviously probably do something on video, depending on how much longer this quarantine and all lasts, and those kind of things. So is it probably the plan they had right out of the chute? No, but I would think it should be able to be altered.
Yeah, I mean, you have no choice. You have to alter it. But now let's look at one of the worst case scenarios where the training camp is really shortened. The preseason is very much shortened into something that's unlike anything we've seen before. Then how do you deal with that? And again, you deal with it because you have no choice. But again, this whole rehab process was supposed to be basically a whole year-long schedule. And now that might get shrunk down into a month, less than a month or whatever, in terms of him coming back and showing that he's back and feeling good, and the team getting to see him to throw as well. Still haven't seen him throw. So I'm just saying there's a lot of issues, and certainly a monkey wrench shown to their plan in terms of his rehab schedule.
I'll wait until July to start worrying about that.
Yeah, well, I'm a worrier, and I'm worried right now. But anyway, so still good news on the Ben front, of course, that he feels confident and felt like he would have been on schedule had the schedule not changed. One last piece of news. The NFL released their all-decade team yesterday, the 2010 to 2019. Two Steelers made it, Maurkice Pouncey and Antonio Brown. Well-deserved choices for both those guys.
Yeah, well deserved. Definitely based on Pro Bowl and All Pro and the accolades and everything that needs to qualify to go into that. Uh, you know, should Cameron Hayward have been in the discussion? Should David DeCastro have had been in that discussion as well?
Yeah, I think you could argue for both of those guys. I don't know who you'd replace from there. I think obviously them coming in a little bit later, a couple years into the 2010s, probably hurt them, is my guess. Had they been drafted in '09, for example, and had the same career arc, they probably had a much better chance of being part of that all-decade team. So I think that's the only part that kind of hurt them, and obviously just the competition of so many good choices to slot in there.
Right, and you can only have so many, I think,
Yeah.
obviously in there. So yeah, look, I mean, Antonio Brown more than deserves to be there.
Hmm.
Based on what he did for a stretch of 6 seasons there, for sure. And obviously the Maurkice Pouncey'd have probably a couple more Pro Bowls and a couple more All Pros, if not for a couple of those seasons that he missed due to injury.
Any chance Pouncey joins all those Steelers centers in the Hall of Fame someday?
You know, it, you could foresee that happening.
Hmm.
Now will Pouncey go down as the best of the lot? Probably not. But I mean, he's got the hardware. I'll tell you that. If he adds a Super Bowl to it. Something obviously he missed. Last time the Steelers were in the Super Bowl, he missed that because of the ankle injury
Hmm.
there. But if he adds a Super Bowl to it here in the next couple of years, I think it would strengthen. Especially maybe if it happens on the heels of him maybe being All Pro and Pro
Yeah.
Bowl again this year, and then follow it up with a Super Bowl in these next couple of years. I think it would really strengthen his case. But I get the sense that that. I mean, especially if you read Pro Football Focus, they're not enamored with Pouncey's play. I think Pouncey's play has been consistently consistent. For the most part, is he as good of a center as really his great predecessor, Damani Dawson? Probably not. But that was a different.
Not as good as Webby either.
You're right, not as good as Webby, but I mean, we're talking about different style of football too.
Sure, sure.
Obviously in today's game, Dawson definitely had the mobility. Back in his day, being able to get downfield, and one of the things that makes Pouncey so good coming out of college was his mobility as well too. So I think it's worth you asking that question. Do I think Maurkice Pouncey will be a first ballot Hall of Famer when the paint dries and all?
Yeah.
Probably not. But 10 10, 15 years from now, I think it's possible.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think actually being on this all-decade team is going to help him a lot in that regard. Just because when these sports writers evaluate linemen, they're just looking at just the accolades, how many Pro Bowls, how many All-Pros, all-decade team. That's basically it. So if he could hit maybe like 2 more Pro Bowls, get him to 10 Pro Bowls, maybe at least one more All-Pro team, this all-decade team, maybe a chance somewhere down the line, 5-6 years after he's eligible, perhaps. My gut still tells me no. He's probably going to lean against it, and maybe that's going to be partly because of places like PFF that's always kind of rated him lowly, and I imagine 10, 15 years from now, we'll be looking at those numbers even more than we are now as kind of our guide in evaluating offensive linemen. Had he been healthy throughout, his whole career, like in 2013 and gotten another, Pro Bowl, All-Pro type season, then again, maybe even better odds. I think he's outside looking in, but still a chance. Again, I think, as you said, worthy of asking that question.
The eye test would tell you no.
Yeah, I would lean that way.
When you watch him play over, obviously going back several years, I mean, and earlier in his career, I thought the better, obviously, but I think the eye test overall, when you watch him play, do you think, man, that guy's a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
And probably not.
Right. I will say, though, the fact that he came back from, 7 knee surgeries he had and really just looked like the same guy, essentially, is something that is context that's at least worth adding into that conversation because that dude came back from something that most players would not been able to recover from.
Yeah, but there is no but,
Oh, I know, but
but
I think it's context that's worth noting.
right. I mean, look, you go back a couple years ago in that long run by Le'Veon Bell, and boy, Pouncey's out there clearing the way, kind of Damani Dawson-like, if you will, back then. But I think the overall eye test, at least for me, going back to his rookie season and all, would say no, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm. But it's close. I mean, it's worthy of talking about.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, it's worthy, like I said, it's worthy of asking the question right now. Yeah.
Right. All right. So then AB again. I mean, for everything that's happened off the field, clearly worth it from an on-field standpoint. The best receiver for that 5-6 year stretch you mentioned earlier. Okay, Dave, let's transition to the draft now. And again, you tell me which way you want to go here because we got a lot of draft discussions to be had today. We have your mock draft. We want to talk about Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins. We have my outside linebacker study. Where do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock out my mock, I guess. And
okay.
then because I did not put a running back in there, then we can go to a recent post that you had on 5 reasons against the Steelers draft for running back. But the purpose, and we talked about this during in our Monday night live stream, which by the way, we throughout the off season here, at least the plan is for an hour at 7 Eastern on Monday night, get on YouTube and do a live stream question and answer session with fans. It's been pretty popular and seems to be growing. If you haven't tuned into that yet, maybe perhaps that's something that you want to tune into going forward here. But as I said during that last night, my purpose was to have all new names. I've done this is now my 3rd mock draft, and you get to the point where obviously we kind of develop, I think, favorites, right? You'd agree, kind of guys that you think probably best fit, and you'd be tempted to continually to put those guys in mocks if you could. I purposely kind of try to stay away from that this time around. I wanted it to include new names, and also purposely, because I've constantly seen myself try to shoehorn in offensive linemen early, I wanted to force myself to wait on an offensive lineman this go around as well too, and then kind of put my mock together that way and see what I came out with there. So that's a little bit of background on how this one was put together here. And then in the first round, it's a guy you and I have talked about quite a bit that we think could be one of 3 or 4 wide receivers that could potentially drop to the Steelers. Jalen Reagor out of TCU. Really a guy, if you stack him up against a guy like Justin Jefferson and Denzel Mims, Rager's probably number 3 on that list there, but he definitely would fit what the Steelers do and kind of look for. He's got the NFL bloodlines with his father, a very nice college resume that included nearly 150 receptions. He lined up a lot on the right outside at TCU, but I think he averaged somewhere around 15% of all the snaps the last 2 seasons in the slot. And I've talked quite a bit about maybe getting a guy that can move around a little bit. That's that. He can return punts and kickoffs. That's an extra added bonus. And he's only 21, and he has a P-Spark score of nearly 133. So, there's a lot of boxes checked there, and you know how I am about trying to get we're almost confident that this team will draft another wide receiver. I mean, it'd be a bit of an upset if they don't draft a wide receiver at some point in this year's draft. I think Jalen Reagor, if he's on the board, would be very hard for them to pass up.
It makes a lot of sense. I almost went with Reagor in my last mock draft. He's been a name that circled number 49 a lot for me in this process. Underclassman too, which again kind of fits what this team's looking for. 21 years old. They want guys that are younger, have more time to develop, more time to have hopefully a long career in a Steelers uniform. So yeah, I mean, I really can't argue with this one at all. I've considered it heavily myself. And I think he's even faster than how he tested at the combine because he was heavy at the combine. He was listed at like 206, 207, and when he was playing in the 190s through his junior season with the Horned Frogs. So yeah, I think it's even faster than the way that he timed and overall tested. So this one makes a lot of sense. He gave me that vertical threat and take the top off the defense while still giving you reps in the slot.
Yeah, not the his route running, not a full route tree. Definitely needs some improvement in that area, but he has enough there that I think he could find himself contributing, in some fashion as his rookie season went on, and potentially compete for the return job on top of that. So he made a lot of sense. In round 3 with a compensatory pick, Darrell Taylor, a guy that some people say, there's no way he's going to be there. And it's possible that he might not be there. But if this, regardless of whatever happens with Bud Dupree in his contract situation this summer, I think there's still a great chance of this team addressing the edge position because, Chicolo obviously no longer there. Daney and Skipper, both former undrafted free agents that you just don't know a lot about. The pedigree says, or the odds are against them becoming, let's say, the next James Harrison, if you will. But Darrell Taylor, nearly 20 sacks at Tennessee. I did a full contextualization of him not too long ago on those sacks there. Numbers aside, he's got some development still to do as a pass rusher. He's got to develop better plans, better counters. By no means a finished product. He did have 13 run stops last season. I think he's okay against the run. I think there's some room for improvement there. But he is 23 already. So if there's one thing that you'd say, man, Dave, I don't know, he's 23. That's a little bit old. You would be right. And so that's one of the kind of the negatives against him because kind of athletically he's probably peaked at 23. He does have some long arms though. That makes him attractive, and I think there's a little bit of upside still to gain development with him. Obviously, being a third round player and being on a 4-year contract and things of that nature. How quickly could you get him on the field? But I think he really fits, and I think the team will draft an edge rusher at some point.
Yeah, I think they will too. Everything that Colbert said seemed to indicate that, and I think Taylor fits, as you say, in terms of being a bigger guy, almost 270 pounds. Really good length. Would you consider him raw? Is that a fair word to use?
Not so much raw.
Unrefined.
Yeah, unrefined more than anything.
I guess the concern would be just based off of that, an unrefined 23-year-old that's probably peaked athletically. It just, how much better is he going to be able to get might be the question.
And that's why I think why I have his draft stock where it is. So some people will say, man, this guy with that production should be top two round pick and all. But those are great questions. Those are great reasons as to why potentially he wouldn't be the pick.
Right. And he did not test at the combine, correct? He has not worked out.
Right. So that's something else. You don't have a lot to go on.
Right, but that's a good reason why he may slip, because these guys that didn't test and they don't have numbers on at all, that's going to hurt their draft stocks. That's just the reality of the situation.
Right. It could. All right, in the 4th round, a guy that you're obviously familiar with, a guy that we've talked about a few times along with Devin Duvernay out of Texas, is safety Brandon Jones. And, boy, the 4th round seems like the perfect – if I was to pick one, I think I got a great chance of hitting in this mock. I think it's this pick right here, just because, A, where it is, the kind of player that he is. He's very versatile safety, the whole hearts and smarts and team captain and everything that goes along with that, and kind of us knowing that we think that they've had some interest in him during this pre-draft process. On top of it, he's versatile. He played in the slot. He played free safety. He played strong safety. Really, to me though, his tape screams that he's probably better around the box than he is the further away from the line of scrimmage there. But there is some versatility there, and like I said, of all the picks here, the Steelers' first 4th round selection, it would not surprise me if Brandon Jones ends up being right on the money.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in contention for a team that desperately needs safety depth. I agree. He's probably a little better, closer, bigger slot, line of scrimmage kind of dude. But he's a good athlete. He didn't get to test, didn't get to work out, didn't get to participate at the Senior Bowl because of an injury. So that's unfortunate. But I think had he been healthy, he would have tested well. He takes good angles. He's got good foot speed. I think he can hold his own in space. He's not going to be a natural free safety in terms of ball skills and overall. But I think he's a competent guy who could play that role because of good athleticism, good football IQ, solid angles of the football. They can wear a lot of hats. So again, yeah, you'll get no argument from me when it comes to Brandon Jones.
All right, the hot flavor of the week seems to be because of the kind of guys that the Steelers are reportedly having interest in, and we use that term kind of loosely there because some of these reports are coming in from kind of like sources that we've never used before, right? Or some names that we've never used before. And I suppose a couple of these guys are getting some interviews or whatnot with some of these players, and the players are announcing some of these teams that have had interest in them. But regardless, there seems to be the thinking now that potentially the Steelers will draft, I don't know, kind of a dimebacker, if you will, a player that kind of a tweener player, an off the ball linebacker / safety / defensive back type. We've already talked about Tanner Muse out of Clemson, right? And we talked about who was the kid the other day they reportedly had interest in out of Memphis.
Austin Hall.
Austin Hall and Kaliki Hudson out of Michigan is a guy that it's rare for Kevin Colbert to comment on a player when asked about a player prior to the draft by name. Well, he did that last week with Kaliki Hudson, a Maurkice product and all, and maybe that's why he did it, because he knows a lot about the kid and that kind of thing. But that said, he did go to Michigan, and we think that the Steelers are at least going to draft probably one Michigan player this year. And Hudson is kind of that kind of that chess piece, if you will. It moved around all over in that Michigan defense. Really doesn't have a home. To me, I mean, what is his best position, Alex?
Yeah, that's going to be the question. It's that dimebacker type role, but he's just a playmaker. He's just a guy that you're gonna find a way to make him fit because the guy is so talented. And he's a good enough athlete. I think not a tremendous one, but good enough for what the Steelers look for. And yeah, they're gonna this whole philosophy for Pittsburgh this year, more so than ever, is going to be just guys that they know, programs that they know. As you said, they've been to pro days every single year. For a junior pro day last year, I'm sure Hudson was there. Like, they're just familiar with Michigan overall as a program. They're familiar with Hudson as a player, as a person, being a Western PA guy. They will have a better idea in terms of what they have in a guy like Kaliki Hudson, more than maybe any other player. So I think this one makes a lot of sense just from that familiarity standpoint. That's going to be really valuable during this process.
You in a year like this, you would think you'd really want to try to, the upside might not be as much, but lowering.
Right.
What's the trade-off of lowering the risk by going more with players that you know a lot about, as opposed to, well, we really like this kid over here, maybe athletically a little bit more, but we don't know how he, what makes him tick.
Yeah, they'll be very risk adverse in this process, and Hudson makes sense there.
I think so too, and that's why I threw him. Now the question is he a fourth rounder? Is he a fifth rounder? Which obviously the Steelers don't have a fifth round. Is he a sixth rounder? That's the when you get with players like this that really you better have a plan for it. It's really hard to come up with kind of a draft round for him.
Yeah, I couldn't give you a great answer for where he's going to be projected to go because of all this uncertainty for all the factors we mentioned. But I think fourth round is fine. I wouldn't argue with about that.
All right, my sixth round pick. Did I surprise you with this one? Bravian Roy out of Baylor, a nose tackle / defensive tackle. Kind of squatty, if you will, 6'1", 332 pounds. But I didn't know anything about this kid until really start of or the middle of last week when I was looking a little bit more around for some defensive tackles that might fit what the Steelers do. I think a lot of people were very, very shocked that Roy did not receive a combine invite this year. Now, he did play, I think, in the East-West Shrine game, and there were reports that he was unblockable during practices leading up to that week. Look, I mean, if you're looking for a guy to come in and maybe give you some snaps in kind of a base defense type setting, goal line type setting, a guy that can still get after the quarterback, if you will, I think Roy fits that. And I think his stock is going to be a little bit low because of the fact of that he's not probably an every down player in the NFL. He's probably kind of more scheme specific to a team using them as a zero or a 1-2 technique kind of thing, but I think he fits. And the fact that he was at an All-Star game helps his chances when it comes to the Steelers.
It does, and I think when you're talking late day 3 nose tackle options, your options are unfortunately pretty limited. It's Roy, it's Benito Jones, and that's about it, it feels like. So, yeah, I think he can fit that role as that squatty plugger well. The lack of length worries me. I mean, I know he's short, but he's got really good T-Rex arms, your favorite thing to talk about. He's got him at 30 and an ace.
Your arms are probably longer than his, aren't they?
Probably. I'm not as heavy, though. I'm off by a couple. I'm like, he's like 3 of me. The concern would be twofold. And again, I know with only 6 picks, this is going to be an issue that we're all going to have in our mock drafts. But would they wait till the 6th round to maybe get their nose tackle when they probably don't have a starter right now? They want to wait that long on a position, the only position without a true starter of the season had to begin today. And I also think while he did seek the will at the Shrine game, and that's going to be important, and the Steelers have a history of drafting guys who obviously were at All-Star games, so the combine snub is really going to hurt them because we just talked about them being risk adverse. Are they going to draft a guy that wasn't at Indy, that you might not have enough confidence in their medical and getting their medical history because he wasn't there? And so I really think this team's probably going to stick with just combine guys where they have that medical information done by their team doctors.
Definitely an argument, but the only other way I could fit in a nose tackle there is probably the Benito Jones there, and I kind of wanted to stay away, from
sure.
Duplicate players this time around there. Yeah. So here's the thing. I think he's a name that should be considered.
Mm-hmm. What about the argument of waiting till the 6th round to get your nose tackle when you have a hole there?
I think you either get one of the better ones early or you wait.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the argument would be let's get one early because there is no starting nose tackle.
Sure, I mean you can make the argument for for that same argument for an interior or really any offensive lineman at any point during this draft when it comes to Steelers. Mm-hmm. I purposely waited this time around, and you'll probably have one of the biggest knocks, at least that I'm seeing in some of the comments that I've read on this, is this mock looks fine, except for I would have liked to seen you address interior offensive line earlier there. So I think my pushback against that and reason for looking at it this way, I try to move these things around here, is look, they did add Stefan Wisniewski. Okay, and assuming that the plan is to move Filer over to guard, they seem to at least cover their bases pretty good going into this thing. And because of their potentially not being or looking like no OTAs and no rookie minicamp, I don't think you're going to have that Maurkice Pouncey situation where he comes in right out of shoot and wins the job and on you go. I think whatever lineman does get brought in, probably going to be inactive. Good chance of being inactive right out of shoot. Anyway there. Not that I don't. Obviously I don't know for sure which way, but I could see that being the thinking. Mm-hmm. If I had my druthers, I think they should, if they get a good center type early, like a Ruiz or a Cushenberry in, say, the 3rd round or something, I think that's the way that they should go. But I'm just trying to look at this at a different way if they didn't go interior offensive lineman early. John Runyon Jr., and this is a kid I've talked about going all the way back to one of the All-Star games there. Mostly played tackle at Michigan. He did play a little bit of guard. He projects as a guard at the NFL level, so there's a little bit more of that unknown for you there that might drive the Steelers away. Look, we didn't get to go to the pro day and see this kid go through guard drills, if you will, or whatever. But I mean, he does have the NFL bloodline. He did go to Michigan. He is position flexible. Not that you would probably want to see him play a lot of tackle at the NFL level, but he is a guy. Look, I think with the right training, I think this kid could be a center too. Probably not a great one, but be a kind of an in the pinch kind of guy, if you will. I mean, realistically, I think John Runyon Jr. has the potential to maybe be a 5-player or 5-position backup in the NFL.
Wow. Yeah. No, that all makes sense. The player and the rationale. I get the rationale of waiting for an offensive lineman. I don't know for sure if I would agree, but you got to make difficult decisions when you only have 6 picks and only 2 in the top, 102, 2 on day 2. So it's hard to make everything fit. There's one position that's going to be left out. So I understand that more as opposed to say nose tackle, and waiting on that. But yeah, Runyon fits, and again, I think they're going to focus on Power 5 guys that they know, bloodlines, and a guy like Runyon checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I think top to bottom, the names, and that's the big thing that you should look at in these mocks, or is the names of the players and if they fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this one does that. I think it does it well.
And you do about 4 or 5 of those, you probably should come up with a good. If you're also listing the players that you considered, which I usually do that more in my final mock draft there, what do we usually come up with every year? A good 60 to 80 players that we can considered in these mock drafts. And my goal in every final mock draft that I have is to have either the player that I picked or the other 6, 7, 8, 9, or whatever at each spot. In total, the total names that I have in that final mock draft, I would like to be able to say that the Steelers picked all the players that I had listed in there.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing one more mock draft, correct? This is not your last one.
Yeah. I'm obviously going to do at least one more.
Just making sure. Yeah.
As much as I hate them, but.
Did you have any consideration to going defense and what is that for the first 5 picks?
Did I what? It's just the way that it broke from, because look, obviously if you don't put some of these guys in the right spaces where people think that or brainwashed that they think players should go, then you get to he won't be. It's a great draft, but he won't be there. So you're fighting a losing proposition with these things the moment you open up, start trying to write them. But you try to win the most realistic aspect, and it probably is shocking that you have that many defensive players in there. But where are the biggest depth holes on this team right now?
Well, I mean, you could argue, there's still potential depth issues at receiver, at tight end. I know we've kind of put that on the back burner for obvious reasons with the Ebron signing. I mean, interior offensive line, just overall getting offensive playmakers. I guess the rationale would be just, okay, the offense was terrible last year. Let's infuse it with some more talent. With the addition of Ben, the offense will hopefully be in a better place, and the defense will still be pretty strong, given that they haven't lost a lot of starting talent at least.
I mean, realistically, what are the chances the Steelers go 4 defensive players right in a row in the middle of the draft? Yeah. Probably low. Very low.
Yeah. And I think they probably are going to go just 3 and 3. 3 offense, 3 defense, assuming they don't trade out, just overall.
Okay.
That's my guess, and generally they try to even things up pretty well. But I like the mock
again. Look at the names. Look at the names.
Yeah, I think that just in terms of getting the right names and the right fit is more important as opposed to trying to get the right order of offense, defense. I think that's probably less important as it is just getting the right names. And you did, of course, start with an offensive player, too, and somebody that can make an impact right away. And I think that would be a boost for the offense in year 1 in this hypothetical.
I think people got to do a better job of looking at totality on these things. When I look at these NFL.com or these major media mock drafts, I look at the names, and I go right to it. Man, Jalen Hurts you give me a mock that at least I think the names work. I'm fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much, well, that guy might not be there. That guy might not be there kind of thing. Just give me some names that I think, like the Chad Reuter has been absolutely awful. Lazy so far during this pre-draft process. And look, I wouldn't wish doing 4, 5, 6 round mock draft on my worst enemy. But if you're gonna do it, at least kind of apply yourself. He's been real lazy with that. The Jalen Hurts and the who's the Utah edge rusher that he's been keeping in there?
Anai.
And then the least athletic cornerback and wide receiver he put in that last one as well too. Just give me guys that I can work with, that I can see being Steelers, and I think you win half the battle in these mock drafts.
Yeah. No, I think that's all we're asking for that, and I think the fit in your mock draft turned out really well. So I think you should be pretty pleased with it. And I think the comments seem to indicate that they liked it as well. So you're doing a good job this year with the mock drafts.
All right, what do I win?
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
All right, I obviously
people telling you how wrong you were whenever the Steelers draft other players. That's what you win.
Exactly. They'll say, "Well, I told you they weren't going to draft so and so." Well, the odds of you being right in that situation are a lot better than mine. All right, I obviously did not include a running back in this mock draft, nor have I in any, I think, mock drafts to date. You wrote an article the other, I don't know, you must have woke up wanting to poke the bear a little bit, I guess. But 5 reasons against the Steelers drafting a running back.
Yeah, I hit the hornet's nest with a bat, I guess you could say. It's just because I wrote about it, and I don't want to belabor the point too much. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just because we had talked about, why we're against the running back so much, kind of, on and off throughout the podcast, I wanted to just put it down in an article, just get those thoughts all out in one place to have that discussion, to kind of explain our side of it. And again, could they draft a running back? Absolutely. I think we both believe that's still a possibility. We're not going to be shocked if they do. So, we talk. It's basically just putting together all of our podcast conversations in one article. Do you want to invest the top pick in only a 4-year contract? Because you can't assume that guy's going to be with you on a second deal. The replaceability of the running back position, the talent you still have with Connor. I think Snell is still super underrated. All the other holes this team has to fill with only 6 picks to work with. And the fact that you can fix the run game in a lot of ways, not just with adding a running back. So you can check out the article on Steelers Depot. It went up yesterday on the site, and you can kind of read the rationale there and agree or not. That's fine. I had a good discussion, good comments from both camps, and I think it turned out well.
And I think you did. I think you kind of look once again. We would be more surprised if this team drafted a quarterback than drafting a running back. And we have. I want to make sure people understand. We have consistently said throughout this thing that if they do draft a running back, they should draft one early. And we'll see. I mean, I like I said, I would not bet my house that they won't draft one.
Yeah, I think it's possible. And again, just the fact that this running back class is really talented, it is a strong group. Well, from a value standpoint, and again, you're picking a 49, you just want to get value, you want to acquire talent, that will maybe compel this team more than what we're talking about in terms of them taking running back, just because the value might be really strong.
And even though we probably are thinking that this team shouldn't and probably might not draft a running back, we still have are now at the point of this process where we're talking and writing a little bit more about the prospects just to know a little bit more about them, especially at the top of the class. Alex and I had a good conversation the other day about Jonathan Taylor and who else? Or it was mainly Jonathan Taylor.
It was mainly Taylor, yeah.
I think a little bit of Akers in there as well, too. But we kind of promised that in this show we'd talk a little bit more about a couple more running backs.
Yeah, well, specifically with Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins were the two guys we're looking at, because if we assume, and like what most mock drafts indicate, that Jonathan Taylor will not be on the board at 49, who might fall? The guys like DeAndre Swift are probably going to be gone by the time 49 comes rolling around, but guys like Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins could be there. And I know I've watched both guys this weekend. You've done a great job posting contextualizations on both players as well. I'll start with you. Just what are your overall thoughts on Dobbins and Akers, their style, and who do you like better?
Dobbins is, to me, Dobbins is that guy that you give him the ball and he runs.
Okay, well,
I mean, literally. I mean, he really is decisive. I think right out the chute of where he wants to go. I think especially on his explosive runs, you see a lot of the same kind of runs. In the
sense of what?
You see him really go off tackle quite a bit with these runs outside the tackle box. And look, a lot like Wisconsin and Jonathan Taylor, the blocking was he had really good blocking, especially this past year at Ohio State. There, he's not having to create a lot on his own.
Yep. That's my issue, but
but I tell you what, once he gets out in that second, and I think kind of the numbers back this up in the contextualization, he's not having to avoid a lot of contact near the line of scrimmage, especially on his explosive runs. And once he gets out in space, he's got a little bit of juice to him. And once again, though, he's not going to be that guy that gives you that stick the leg in the ground, break your ankle, and then back up to speed and get past you. Now he can long speed you, I think. I mean, I think he's got a little bit deceptive speed. You see him run away from a few people not named Tanner Tanner Muse from Clemson there, but I just see a very what's the word I'm looking for? Not overly dynamic player. I think a lot, and when you look at his successful run rates, when you look at his short yardage rates, when you look at his 1st and 10 success rates, they're fine. But he's kind of a feast or famine back.
That's the phrase I was gonna use.
Was it?
Yeah, I swear to God.
But I mean, look, I mean, still don't get me wrong. He has a large selection of where are my stats here on this so I can better tell you what we're looking at here with him. He has 64% success rate last season on regular season games, and what that means is gaining 4 yards or more on first, or 40% of the yards on first down, 50% of the yards on second down, and 100% on third and fourth. 17 of 26 on third and 3 or less yards, converting at 65% on those during the regular season. Only 15 tackles for losses last year. It really seems like he's getting you 3 to 4 yards, or he's getting you 60.
Yeah, I watched the Michigan State game from October, and what I have written down, I'll read my notes here. Good stat line, but busted off of 2 big runs, feast-famine performance. Like, he's a guy that's either going to take it to the house or a guy that's going to get you a 2-yard gain.
We ought to form a Blusto type service. It's amazing that you came up. Look, I like Dobbins. I do, but once again, yeah. Here's the thing: is he set? If we get right to it, and how a lot of these runs were created, is his style? Was his success more of a byproduct of competition, offensive line?
Well, I think that's an element of it. I mean, I think I would say he's more dynamic than what your evaluation is, just because when he gets in the second and third level, like, he's got great speed. He can run away from angles, like that Michigan State game, that one long touchdown run he had. The safety had a great angle, and you just outran it.
He ran right by him, man.
Yeah. So I think he has the game breaking ability to make those big plays, to have that long speed, to win in open space. But you're right, he doesn't create that well. I didn't see a lot of power. He goes down a little bit too easily on contact. The vision didn't seem particularly great. I mean, when the hole's there in a man or gap blocking scheme, he can just follow his blockers, hit the hole, and then use that speed in open space. But is he someone that's going to be able to create on his own? Not as much. And for me, that's really important, because any running back can run behind a really good offensive line in college football. It's not that hard to do. Run defense is not the best. It's not what college football is known for. The great run defense. So you want someone who can create whenever the play breaks down and outside the structure of the run. And I don't see that with J.K. Dobbins.
And what did you think about running in between the guards with him?
I mean, he's a downhill style. Like, he doesn't dance. I mean, he can run between the guards. He's not a small back. He's not a super powerful one either. But I mean, he can get downhill and hit the hole, and if it's there, then he can explode in the second and third level.
About like when I started off with, you give him football and he runs, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's not. He's a pretty no nonsense runner. I guess his demeanor I'm not too mad about, but his vision isn't particularly great. And just I didn't see him create a whole lot until he got into the second and third level, when he could win with his overall speed and athleticism. That's where Dobbins wins the best. He's going to give you some big plays for sure. I think it's a really good dichotomy with Cam Akers, where Akers is kind of the opposite, where he's kind of just a consistent, steady, going to move the sticks, downhill style, can create a lot more than I think Dobbins can. But Akers isn't going to give you as many explosive plays either as Dobbins was capable of doing.
Let's back up a little bit here, though, and compare Taylor to Dobbins.
Yeah, I like Taylor more. I think just vision for sure. Taylor can still offer the big playability, and obviously tested really well. And so overall athleticism, I think they're pretty close. I think Taylor's a more powerful runner. I think both had obviously great productivity. Like Dobbins was capable of being a workhorse back. I put on, what game was it? Let me put up my notes here. Against Wisconsin, actually. I watched that game, and I think the first 5-6 plays of that game, J.K. Dobbins carried the ball. So he's been able to be a workhorse back, and the production was really good. Obviously had some really, really gaudy numbers. I think ran over for 2,000 yards like Taylor, but I like Taylor's overall game more.
I think Taylor gives you a little bit more of that, and it's not by much, but a little bit more of that shiftiness, a little bit more ability to slide.
And I think that's born out of the vision, because I don't think Taylor's a naturally shifty dude.
Right.
I think you could wake Cam Akers up and he could be shifty. I think Taylor's the guy that it's just that born out of his vision. And so I agree with you there, but I think it's not because of the agility and athleticism. It's just the vision that Taylor possesses.
All right, is Dobbins a second round back?
I mean, is he worth it at 50? I think for a Steelers team that's looking for the big plays, that they sorely missed last year and really haven't gotten that from the run game in a while anyway, I think you can make an argument for that. I will say also in Dobbins' favor, I think he's got really good hands. I think he's versatile. They moved him around a little bit. He played slot. He played out wide. He can be used as a receiver route tree to a limited extent, of course, but he's not someone that's raw, I think, as a receiver and somebody that's capable of moving around the offense, and that's going to be important for Pittsburgh. So there's some kind of day one readiness that's going to help his cause.
Well, is he a second round back?
Yeah, I think you can make that argument. I just think you have to know how to use him and know how he wins. Obviously, that's true of any player, but he's a guy for an offense that's looking for those big plays. He's going to be your guy, and for Pittsburgh, I think that would fit.
I think I continue to go back to looking at the Raiders and getting Josh Jacobs in the first. I mean, you look at his statistical resume, it's really not as impressive as Taylor's and Dobbins.
With Jacobs, yeah. Well, he just had less tread on the tires, I guess. Yeah. I mean, he just didn't have he wasn't there as long, I don't think, and I don't know. Bama just always has a million backs there.
I mean, remind me, was Josh Jacobs just that far ahead and above, other backs in last year's draft?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's just kind of a freaky guy with his overall size, athleticism, just that whole skill set. It was pretty uncommon, I guess, was the rationale for him. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't. What Oakland did last year, taking Jake, it doesn't really influence my opinion on this class or anything.
How many? I know you don't know the answer to this, I know, and that's good. But I want you to guess how many explosive plays of 20 yards or more runs that Josh Jacobs had during his career at Alabama.
Well, it's probably lower just because he didn't have as many carries as those other guys. Can you tell me how many carries he had in his career?
He had, let's see, 120 and 18, 46. So that's what, 166 plus 85. What's 166?
I'm just gonna look up the stats off of Sports Reference as opposed to me, because I'll end up with like a million somehow if my math is wrong here. 251 career carries is what he had.
Okay.
So what? 10% would be 25. I'll say 25.
25 explosive runs of 20 yards or more.
20 yards. Let me go 20.
All right. In 2018, he had 1.
Okay, I'm not off to a good start.
In 2017, he had 2. And in 2016, he had 7. So he had 10.
So I'm not going to black you.
I'm not mocking you. I'm just saying.
No,
are you surprised by that?
A little bit, yeah. I am.
I am too. I was surprised to see that. I mean, obviously, you're not expecting a running back to what is the expectations for explosive plays and running backs?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically
in the NFL level.
It's basically 4% explosive runs is what he had, and I'd have to see how that number stacked up against other running backs, because I think these numbers have to be relative. And obviously, Jonathan Taylor has 900 career carries, and Josh Jacobs had 251. So obviously Taylor's going to have a lot more opportunity for those. So I'd have to look at the percentages to really make that number relative. But yeah, I thought it'd be more than 10.
So it goes back to the old saying: only takes one team to draft a guy to make him a first or second round pick. So
and the story was that Gruden fell in love with him at the title game. I think he watched that game. I think they were at that game or something, and then Gruden put together a clip of Jacobs' 4 or 5 best runs from that game, and went to Mayock and said, we're drafting this kid.
Okay.
Something like that.
My heart tells me Dobbins is not a second round guy, but will he get drafted there? It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, there are concerns with Dobbins. I mean, outside of that big playability and some of that versatility, there are question marks. I don't see a particularly powerful back. I don't see a particularly back that can create. And so now I'm kind of coming to your side where he's kind of fringe to me because I want running backs who wow me and running backs who really create, and Dobbins didn't quite do either of those things for me.
I think the fan side and the novice YouTube scouter just looks at, wow, look at the big plays. Look at these long runs, and not so much looking at how the sausage was made. What kind of blocking did the guy have? What happens on? Did he create those big plays? Did he play any hand in creating those big plays? And also, how is he when he has to create on his own? When you throw out the big plays all together, and you throw out every play that he gained 10 or more yards on. All right, go look at the other plays. How did he create, and what is the percentage of plays that he had to create because of a missed block or a missed assignment or just a bad play call? Against a look. And that's what I think I have learned to do more of over the years.
And to segue that, if I may, unless you had other thoughts on Dobbins, that's why I like Cam Akers more than J.K. Dobbins. Because he can create, because he had to create, because he played behind a much worse offensive line and a much worse team in general.
All right, talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, he's just a guy that I think fits the Steelers style more. He's bigger. He's got a really big lower half. He's a downhill guy. He runs with a lot of power, a really good contact balance, and he's shifty too. He's got that really good lateral agility where he can make guys miss, and that's a good thing he can do that because he had to a lot behind that Florida State offensive line that team's really fallen apart the last couple of years. So he's not as dynamic, doesn't give you the big plays as maybe a Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor, not by a long shot. But a guy that I think is really steady, consistent, downhill with a lot of power, a lot of balance, and some really good lateral agility as well.
Here's what I wrote about in his contextualization. Akers exhibits really nice balance on a lot of these 19 explosive runs and a little bit of shiftiness on a few others. He can break an ordinary arm tackle as well with his power running style. He can also get to the edge and win, as you'll see in a few of these 19 explosive runs. You would agree with that, right?
Absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. Not that you should cherry pick one thing that did stick out is quite a few of these explosive runs by his. If you look at that, and I invite everybody to go to SteelersDepot.com, find this post and look at the attached video because I put a lot of time. How long does it take, do you think, to compile these?
I don't even want to know. Too long.
I've got down a pretty damn good system over the years in this, in doing this, but it's still, it's finding every run or damn near every run, and then kind of contextualizing those. Get the data that goes along with it. Down, distance, time, first contact, broken tackles, and all that. And I think the thing that stuck out the most with him, as opposed to guys like Taylor and Dobbins, is he was having to beat first contact at within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage on probably, 60%, 70% of these runs.
Yeah, the dude can create. The dude can make something out of nothing and something beyond the structure of the play. And to me, that is really valuable because that's a true runner, when you have to just fend for yourself, basically.
Right. So that aspect of him really makes him. It really makes you think that maybe he can catch the ball, I think, out of the backfield as well too. But I think overall, I think he has the better chance to maybe be more viable for a longer period of time in the NFL. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is going to sound a little reductionist just to put it this way, but man, put Cam Akers behind Wisconsin or Ohio State's offensive line and we'd be talking about him as a top back in the class, I think, just because he would have had the luxury of running behind those great runways.
What was his Peace Spark?
I think it was good. He tested well. I think he ran a 4.47. Let me pull up his numbers here. He tested well, and I think better than maybe even what I think some would have expected, or what I would expect based off of the tape alone. So I don't have exactly what his P-Spark score was, but I think his overall testing was pretty strong.
I'm gonna see if I can pull that up while we're talking here real quick.
But yeah, I like Akers. Now he's not maybe quite as versatile as Dobbins, and I don't know if his hands are as good as J.K. Dobbins. They're probably not. But just again, just in terms of being able to create such a big thing for me, that I was really impressed. Yeah, Akers ran a 4.47, 35.5-inch vertical, 10.2 broad, 20 on the bar, which is a good number. 4.42 short shuttle. I don't know exactly as that amounts to a P-Spark score, but at 217 pounds, I'm guessing he turned out pretty good.
I think you have to rank J.K. Dobbins and Akers right there with each other, pretty close.
Well, if you had to choose, who would you take?
Probably because of the creation, just because I view it's not bad. I mean, Jerome Bettis used to be get on down the field, right?
Yeah, well, Akers isn't Bettis.
No,
but...
I'm talking about Dobbins.
Oh, okay.
Dobbins more of a here's the ball, me run, kind of straightforward, kind of power back there.
Do you think it's a power back? I don't see the power with him.
Well, I mean, and I made sure to say that I didn't see the stuff between the guard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. He's 5'9.5", 209. I don't think it's a power back.
I think I just didn't see enough success there to my liking. That's why I have him. Yeah. That's why I'm not as high on him.
All right. Well, so you put Cam Akers ahead of him?
I would put him slightly ahead of him, but I think both those guys. I don't think either one of them are second round. I think both those guys are third. I think both those guys are third round backs. That's why I say you put them about together.
I think Akers. I'm a lot more confident in Akers being a second round talent as opposed to Dobbins being there. But they're two different backs. It depends what you're looking for. Like Dobbins, again, I think has bigger upside in the sense of big playability. He's going to draw big runs in the NFL. Akers probably won't do that to that extent, but Akers can create a lot better, and I think just be a little more consistent. And from the Steelers standpoint, he's just a bigger dude. I mean, he's 5'10.5", 217. Dobbins is 5'9.5", 209. So from what the Steelers look for standpoint, what they're more likely to draft, well, the target team made for Dobbins because, again, the big playability this offense is missing. Akers fits the mold much better. He only missed in what they look for study in weight by 3 pounds, by a cheeseburger. So I think he really fits what they look for.
All right, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the other guy in this equation that we probably need to talk a little. I got a contextualization coming up on him on the site today. Have you looked much at Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Not in the way, because I spent the weekend on Dobbins and Akers, but he's very shifty in the sense of he's really a guy that what's your phrase you use about dimes and change and
stop on a dime, give you 9 cents change. Yeah, he's the
best.
Him and Akers are right there. I think kind of.
I would put Edwards-Helaire above Akers on that, but they're similar. Yeah, I agree.
Now he's obviously a lot more squattier type, 5'7". Mm-hmm. To me, I'm not convinced he's an every down guy.
Okay.
But he definitely can give you some carries and give you some. He's another guy that can scoot past you on the outside.
Yeah, the 40 time wasn't great though, 4.6 flat, but that's not his game.
He is another one though that I think not. I don't think you see as much creation, although in that game against Clemson and I think it was the final run of his, wasn't it? That sidestepped the guy in the backfield and then got around the right end and then had the presence of mind just to go down in bounds. That was probably one of his most impressive runs in that game. And he obviously had quite a few long runs in that game as well too. But he's another one I think I would throw into that third round kind of category with Dobbins and Akers there. So I think the hierarchy kind of here, what we're getting at is it's probably Swift, and we probably have to do Swift at some point just to make sure we're doing it right. Swift and Taylor, and then the other three.
So if Taylor's off the board, and we assume Swift's off the board, you're basically not saying there's a running back you think is worth a value at 49?
Yeah, there's not.
See, I
think that Akers is probably borderline,
okay.
But if we're asking ourselves, is he, kind of question it, then I would lean towards no.
Okay, I'm leaning towards yes, and I think from a Steelers standpoint, I think he fits what they're looking for at a pretty strong level.
You don't think he could? I mean, he'd probably go between your second. If you're going to draft him, you would have to probably draft, and you're the Steelers, you'd have to draft him at 49 because
Yeah.
he's probably not lasting all the way back to the third round compensatory pick.
Yeah, there's going to be a run at the position at some point between 49 and 102, and the odds of getting him at 102, I think, are relatively low.
So I mean, is there going to be at least one running back off the board by the time the Steelers pick at 49? I think odds are good, yes, right?
Mm-hmm. And probably two. I mean, if we assume Swift and Taylor are the guys, then they're probably gone before 49.
All right, so if we assume that's the case, and if we assume that if they were going to draft a running back, it would probably be at 49 overall, there really is probably only one selection for them, and it's Akers.
Yeah, I think so. Again, with Dobbins, I mean, you make the case, Ohio State guy, big playability, just doesn't fit the mold. But from a really what they look for standpoint, I think Akers is the guy that fits the best in terms of A, he's got a chance to be there, and B, fits the mold.
So, I mean, to me, after going through several of these guys, and maybe we'll talk. I tell you what, either on Friday or early next week, let's go ahead and knock out Edwards-Helaire. Okay. Deep dives on him. Maybe should Moss even be in that? I mean, they're not going to draft Zach Moss in the second round, right?
No, I don't see it.
So why don't we talk about Edwards-Helaire and Swift and get them done?
Okay. Now they're going to draft Zach Moss because they just said they won't draft.
Yeah. I just can't. Well, let's talk about another kid, another running back. He probably a little bit later in this thing, but the Memphis kid,
Gibson. Yeah, I've been touting Antonio Gibson a lot in terms of him being that perfect blend between running back, receiver, size, big playability, returnability. Like, we we had a good discussion the other day, or yesterday, on our Monday stream about, like, are they going to draft a dimebacker to kind of be the catch-all for everything? Inside linebacker, safety, Hilton, Sutton being free agents next year. I think Gibson's kind of that catch-all for running back, receiver, playmaker, return guy. Like, he can fit all of those things, wear all those hats kind of at once. I think Antonio Gibson makes a lot of sense. The issue with Gibson, though, is 1 year of production. And the Steelers notoriously want these guys, receiver and running back, with high levels of productivity.
Absolutely. They normally do, yeah.
But I like him a lot, and it seemed like you were warming up to him last night, too.
Yeah, I just was finally getting around to seeing a larger selection of his tape, and Lord knows Randy Fichtner's probably seen a lot of it, being Memphis. But, a little bit taller, I think about, 6'3", kind of guy. And, boy, they weren't afraid to move him around in that offense at all. I mean, sometimes you wonder, are you sure this guy's a running back? Because of the way they split him out and throw to him down the field there. But yeah, once again, 2009. I mean, you only have one year production to go on with this kid, and if we're talking about eliminating risk and those kind of things, that's not even going to scratch the surface on what for the Steelers.
Yeah, he's 6 foot 3/8, by the way. He's not 6'3", but he's still a tall guy, big guy. But again, I mean, I put Gibson in my running back study, even though he's listed as a receiver, and the only category he missed was the hand size, 8 5/8 instead of 9 inches was our threshold. So maybe that could be an issue, sure. But yeah, the productivity is going to be the concern. But everything else, man, like, I could see him really fit in this offense well.
38 receptions for 700, a little over 700 yards, and 30. I mean, what do you have total? Like 71 touches.
I can pull it up. Yeah, I mean, he had put on the SMU game. Like, that's some of the best tape of anyone you're going to find this year. Yeah, 38 receptions, 33 carries, whatever the total there is. Not a lot. Not what this team generally gravitates for. Also, 23 kick returns, 28 yards an average, and 1 touchdown. So made some plays in the kick return game. Which my issue with the kick return game in Pittsburgh.
He's got a David Johnson feel to him.
That's a good comp. I like that.
PFF's got a 4th round projection on him. I think that's a little high.
I think he could go even higher.
You think so?
Well, where did Tony Pollard go last year? He went 4th round.
Okay.
So, and maybe you could debate that Gibson's a little worse than Pollard. I don't know if I think Pollard had more production, but yeah, those Memphis guys, they got two. They got another guy, Patrick Taylor, who's draft eligible this year. State I didn't really like, but I mean, they just got, and whoever their starter was this past year had a great year. So they just churn out these playmakers in Memphis.
All right, have we done? Are we doing a running back position justice?
I guess it's for people listening to decide, but I think we've done a deep dive the last 2 weeks, and we're going to do it again on Friday with Edwards-Helaire and Swift. So I think we're getting into it a little late in the process, but we're talking about it.
All right, what else?
Well, speaking of studies, I did my study on the outside linebackers and what the Steelers look for. Again, looking at just thresholds, not necessarily averages or ideals. And unfortunately, I think this is a first. No player, no outside linebacker or defensive end that I could find hit every single box in terms of what Steelers look for. Two missed by one category: Wisconsin's Zach Bond and Mississippi State's Will Gay Jr. I don't see either of those guys ending up becoming Steelers. So it kind of reinforces my idea of this not being the best edge class in the world. But again, we still expect this team to take an edge guy and somebody that clearly will not check every single box in my study.
All right. Now here's the thing with Will Gay Jr. What do you view Will Gay Jr. as?
Yeah, he could be more of an off-ball guy. I mean, he's probably more that than he is pass rusher. The issue with Gay Jr., we talked about him before, is the off-the-field stuff. Like, very risk-adverse, too much to try to deal with and wade through and determine that's probably going to make the Steelers very comfortable in drafting him.
Well, here's the thing, too. I viewed him more as an off-the-ball guy.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's probably an off-ball guy. But I think he just was listed outside linebacker and just the interest of being thorough and also not having many names in my study, I threw him on there.
I mean, when you look top to bottom at this thing, Kevin Colbert saying, oh, it's a deep edge class. The deeper you go in this, it really doesn't seem like it is, right? Well, especially what the Steelers look for.
Well, from the moment Colbert made that comment, I was like, really? Like, that was the one thing that I disagreed with on Colbert in this evaluation. Now, again, his opinion matters a lot more than mine. He's a decision maker. I still think they're going to draft an edge guy. But yeah, you got Taylor, you got Weaver. They show an interest in Highsmith. I can count on one hand kind of the names that seem to fit.
Greener, I don't know. Have you watched much of Greener's film?
He was at the Senior Bowl, right? Yeah, he's got a good get-off. That was the thing I saw with Grenard was a really good first step.
I wasn't too impressed. I was more impressed with the other Florida kid. What did the other Florida kid miss in this study?
I think his athleticism was pretty poor. Let me find him because I got to see what category he was in. No, his athleticism was okay. Let me pull up my study here and see how do you say it? Zuniga?
Yeah.
His last name. Where did he miss? He missed in the shuttles because he did not participate in the 3-cone or the short shuttle.
Okay.
So he actually checked every other box.
Okay. Obviously, Weaver's a guy we've kind of talked about for a little while, and really Alton Robinson as well too, dating back to Tom Mead and me talking about a couple of those guys ahead of I think the NFL PA Bowl or the East-West Shrine game, either one of those. Are they gonna? What did Taylor miss out on? Well, he missed out on a lot of stuff because he didn't.
Who's this?
The Tennessee kid.
Darryl Taylor. Yeah,
Darryl Taylor. Yeah,
he didn't do any drills. I think he had an injury because he had the bow to the Senior Bowl too. So just a lot of DNPs, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about these studies this year, and really a lot of the pre-draft process. Man, we're lacking so much data this time around.
Yeah. How about one name I had it in a previous mock draft, Casey Toohill from Stanford. I think he's an older guy, I think 5th-year senior, but 708 3-cone is one of the better numbers in this class. 4.62 40, a decent production, good athlete. I would keep the name Casey Toohill in mind.
I haven't watched him. What do you see?
Yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot. I just was kind of going through my mock and just trying to find guys who kind of check the boxes athletically. But yeah, productive, 6'4", 250, 33.5-inch arms, ran 4.62, 39-inch vertical, 10.6 broad, 7.08 3-cone. Just from an athletic standpoint, on those numbers alone, that kind of catches my attention in to me, weaker edge class.
All right, good job. What position's next?
We have cornerback next, and then we're going to do tight ends for the first time ever because we finally have enough data, barely, but have enough data to do tight ends, and we'll see what tight ends do and don't fit. That'll be later on this week.
All right, sounds good. All right, what else? What else do we have?
I think that was about everything. I think all I have left are just reader emails, unless I missed something.
Okay. How far along are we in this now? About almost an hour. Yeah, this will work out about perfect here. Let's see. Mike Adesso writes in, "Hi, Dave and Alex. Random suggestion here. Love the podcast, guys, but I'm wondering if you could try something different. How about you two trying a mock draft simulator while together during the podcast? I think it'd be a fun exercise to see both of your thoughts while the board falls each round when the Steelers are on the clock." Here's the thing. I don't like the simulators personally because I have a different view of, because I want to guarantee that I get certain guys that I think, the Steelers are after, and place them where I think I want them, and I think I understand why people use these simulators and why they're put together, but they still don't think like humans.
Yeah, they're fun to do though, just because you don't always get your ideal player. You kind of have to roll with the punches, and that's kind of fun.
I mean, are you up for doing anything like that?
I'm just trying to think how we would do it logistically and kind of both see the screen. Maybe during a live stream or something, or maybe our own little separate video so we both can see what the screen is and what's on the board.
Maybe we'll do it during a live stream. I don't think it'd work as good on a podcast. It'd be like,
I agree.
Grass growing,
Yeah, it'd be a lot of just us debating and kind of I think for a live stream or our own separate video would be fun, but maybe not for a podcast format.
Maybe we'll do that on to kind of tease people and get them to watch the live stream. Maybe we'll do that on the next live stream. How about that?
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Well, we'll kind of force ourselves to rapid fire it too, to really make a quick determination on the fly there.
Yeah. Well, when people can see the board and have a visual impact in a real time discussion, that kind of makes it a little more entertaining for people that are watching. So yeah, that's something to consider.
All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Bryce writes in, "After all the free agent signings and moves for XFL players, here's what I've landed. I still think that I still, after all think Troutman is the best player available at 49 if he's available. I see his skill set filling a long-term need at tight end position. I like Alex's picks of Gallimore and Biadiz. How did we say we need?
I think Biadish. Yeah, there's an H sound at the end.
But not over Troutman. Now if Troutman is off the board, then I'm good with those two players. I do think we want to consider the inside linebacker position as a possibility for number 3. We have Bush, but Vince is nearing the end. Blah blah blah. Do you see inside linebacker worthy of the Steelers' 3rd round pick? Yeah, look, Alex and I quickly went over this the other day. Thinking about where is off the ball inside linebacker position, on the heels of drafting Devin Bush last year and them losing a lot of Matakavich, not that he was a starter, Barron, who obviously we knew was going to be out of town. Those two guys are gone. I mean, your cupboard's bare right now at inside linebacker, unless you think Vince can be that guy. And if Vince wasn't the guy last year, kind of seems like you're taking a step backward.
Yeah, I mean, from a team standpoint, clearly they had a compelling reason to play Barron over Williams. I didn't see it, and I have a lot of confidence in UG3 based on what I saw in camp preseason and a little bit in the regular season in terms of a special teamer, and I'm excited about him. That's why I think they could do that dime player to try to be that catch-all to solve all those issues.
Yeah,
not that it would, but that would be their attempt.
But if we've got to give Ulysses UG3 the same kind of treatment we would give two of the younger outside linebackers too. We just haven't seen anything on those guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's obviously a limited resume clearly, but I think I've seen enough to know this guy has the ability to play on defense as a projection. Sure, I don't know for sure how things are going to go. Dude's never taken a defensive snap in his life in the NFL, but I just think from a talent standpoint, I have confidence that he's capable of making that jump into that number 3 spot. I'm not asking him to be a starter, just to be a backup.
Is it enough to not dedicate a top, one of your first 3 picks in this draft to an off the ball player, or are you more in that catch-all still, that tweener player kind?
Well, I think they are going to draft that tweener type player. I mean, obviously, if the right talent came along, it wouldn't prevent me from drafting that guy. I mean, UG3 is not so good that I couldn't draft a really talented off-ball guy should he present himself. But with all the other needs for this team, I just look at inside linebackers kind of being on the back burner. You combine that with a dime guy, I think they're going to end up taking and kind of solve some of those things.
All right, his second question, Dave, here's a throwback question. Where do you have Damani Darson ranked on the list of great Steelers linemen? Boy, that's such a opening question. He's up there. I'll tell you that. It's kind of funny that Alex and I were just talking about earlier in the podcast. Center boy, Damani Dawson was that guy that could get downfield with you, man. I mean, you go back and you look at some of these old clips. His physicality, his athleticism, his ability to get downfield and make blocks. I mean, it's up there, man. I mean, there's a reason he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, I mean he's part of that rich Steelers history of centers of, Mansfield and Webby and Dawson and now Pouncey and the other great linemen in Steelers history like Faneca and Frank Farrashone. So yeah, I mean you can rank him however you want, no wrong answers, but he's right up there.
Our buddy Lewis Grove writes back in. I know why you are opposed to any running back at 49, but the more I watch Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the more I believe his vision and lateral agility to create space in both the run and pass game. He seems like a piece that could multiply this offense's efficiency. Let me know why I am wrong, and thanks for being constant voice. I think you described him right. I just think I think he's more of that third, fourth round player.
Yeah, I'll have to watch him more and get back to you for Friday's show. But I like this game. I mean, I think he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, I don't, look, just because Alex and I don't think that the Steelers will, or should draft a running back at 49 doesn't mean that we don't like some of these backs, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, absolutely.
All right, Richard Hudspeth writes in, hey, David Knox, can you cover a little bit more on Chase Claypool? The tight end to receiver conversion is very interesting. Could he be drafted as a tight end and still and if so, where would he rank in this year's position group? Is it possible he could play both just to increase his snap count? You and I talked briefly about him, I think, last night on the live stream. He's an interesting prospect. The thing is, man, if he is indeed been told that he needs to bulk up a little bit and play tight end, be kind of the Waller type, right? Darren Waller type. Then that conversion is going to take a little bit of time, I think. On top of it, as a receiver, I did a full contextualization on him earlier in the offseason there. Not that dynamic of a route runner. He is a big kid though, got some speed to him. Can make the difficult catch down the field. Everything put together, it doesn't equal up to a player more than, say, a fourth round player.
Yeah, interesting. The word that you use, I think, is probably the best one to describe him. Just trying to figure out who he is and how you're going to use him in the NFL is a little difficult. He's a physical guy that likes to block, but he's never really played tight end before. Is he going to make a conversion there full time? I just have a difficult evaluation with Claypool, and I think it's going to hurt it in a year with so much uncertainty.
He's just a very raw wide receiver.
Yeah, he'd be even more raw tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see him being drafted any higher than the fourth round.
I mean, I could see someone just taking a flyer for the insane athletic traits that he has. Similar to Miles Boykin last year, and I think we had a discussion yesterday. We both like Boykin a little more than Claypool, but I could see it being about the same.
All right, Matt Smith writes in, here are a few quick draft over-unders for you. Number of total selections the Steelers make, over or under 6.5?
I'm going to say over.
So you think they end up doing a trade or something, get an extra pick, huh?
I do.
I'll take the under. I think they stand pat. Number of offensive and defensive linemen the Steelers select on Friday only, over under 1.5.
I'll say under.
And that's offensive and defensive linemen total.
Right, total. So 1, yeah. I'll say. I think that's a safe bet to just say 1.
Yeah, I'll go under. Number of non-Power 5 players the Steelers select overall, over under 2.5.
Oh, under easily. In a year like this, yeah. I think you can put it at 1 and still be a debate.
Yeah. Number of undrafted free agents the Steelers signed who played college ball at Toledo. Over or under 25. I think that's 25 and not 2.5. It's funnier if you put 25 in there. Yeah, that's a funny. Stay lit, says Matt. I always stay lit. Alex stays half lit. Article on Nick Vanette. Oh, we didn't talk about Nick Vanette, Alex.
Oh yeah,
Big loss.
You
I'm
got
sure.
mad about that. I didn't care about that.
Yeah, I just think he could have handled that better.
Sure, he could have.
Just say, look, it didn't work out. Yada yada. I wish them nothing but the best. The Steelers are a great organization. It's just too bad at the quarterback. Blah blah blah. He didn't need to add some of that other stuff in there.
No, he didn't need to, but I'm not mad about it. I have no reaction to it. He's salty. That's fine. He's not a Steeler anymore. I don't really care.
Chris kind of takes issue with, and this is something I put out there for a while now, and he says, in regards to your post on Nick Vanette, sorry to disagree with you, Dave, but taking Luke Wilson instead of Vanette would have been even worse. He says his stats were miserable. 8 receptions for 79 yards versus Vanette having 17 for 166. Whoa! Which isn't great, but double, he writes. So
Nick Vanette's going to be in the Hall of Fame once.
Ooh.
2027
Chris goes on to write, Colbert was desperate and had to make a move. Vance was down, and the only healthy tight end was Gentry. A better option would have been to take Caden Smith, who was taken 35 picks later and had 31 receptions, 288 yards, and 3 touchdowns, but was also ranked higher on all draft boards. I agree with Alex. They need to invest in a tight end. What say you, Dave? Should they invest in a tight end? Who would you pick in what round? Yeah, Chris, I'm assuming you listen to the podcast and all, and my thoughts on tight end at this point now, and I've been anti-tight end throughout this whole thing for the most part. If they draft one, they should draft Charlie Warner in the 7th round. That's what they should do. I said it. As far as Luke Wilson versus Vanette, I think I'm right on this. Signing Luke Wilson off the street would have been just as good, if not better, than trading for Vanette.
Well, Chris won me over at the end of that email, but yeah, I mean, you traded a 5th round pick for 9 more receptions and very middling play. It was a bad trade. I mean, I understand why they did it. They were in a tight spot. It was a bad trade, and it's okay to say that. It's okay to criticize Colbert on that.
Luke Wilson would have been the better damn blocker of the two. Yeah. I'll tell you that. And what's funny about the whole damn thing is you turn around now and it's immediately after they traded Vanette to the Steelers, who did Seattle sign back?
Luke Wilson.
So I rest my case.
Quickly to the last point that Chris won me over on, you agree that the fact this team has not invested in the tight end position in so long in the draft is a problem, just overall.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know me and tight ends and edge rushers.
Right. Yeah, you're the guy that would draft a tight end all 7 rounds.
Well, I would
refuse to draft tight ends.
I would draft 6 edge and a tight end.
And a tight end.
Yeah.
Partridge. But they just refuse to draft tight ends, and it is baffling.
But, I mean, when you look at the top of this class just ain't it, brother.
Right, no, I mean, yeah, putting this class aside, just the last 13 years where they just don't do it. They don't invest in the position. It's bizarre.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why they're having to scramble and go out there and get Vanette. And, okay, let's hope Ebron's ankles let's get 2 guy with surgeries on both ankles. Hope that works out. Let's get, Darius Green. Okay, Vance, just off the cuff scrambling, trying to add guys. And that's why there is this rotation. It is frustrating. Clearly, I'm frustrated by it.
I tell you what's going to frustrate me on draft day during the draft. That 5th round pick that the Steelers sent Seattle for Vanette has since been traded to the Washington Redskins. And the Washington Redskins, if you hear Chris Cooley talk, might be kind of high on Charlie Warner. If Charlie Warner gets drafted by the Redskins with that exact 5th round pick, I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Your TVs are gonna be really nervous.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Your TVs are gonna be the Key and Peele sweating guy meme during the draft.
All right. This one's from a guy named Yahoo. Hey guys, it's Tony. From Tony from Virginia. I was looking at a list of potential free agents for the Steelers in 2021. Give me a quick yes or no if you think the player will be retained going forward. I'll list the starters only. All right. He's looking. Let's see. Quick yes or no if the player will be retained going forward. Bud Dupree.
Yes.
Joe Hayden.
Wow, he's up again.
In 2000, when's Joe Hayden's contract up?
Yeah, didn't you just get was it Does it only run through 2021? So not this year, next year is what I'm confused.
I'm a bit confused the way he has this worded as well.
Because like Dupree's obviously run through this year. I think Hayden is through 2021, not through 2020.
Hold on a minute.
You can check me if I'm wrong on that. But because they just extended him last year, right? Yeah, no, you can pull up that information on that.
I'll read you some more names here. Cam Hayward.
Yeah, he's gonna probably get extended this summer. That'll help clear a little cap space as well. And yeah, I mean he's gonna be here as long as humanly possible. So they should extend Hayward, and it's probably gonna happen before training camp, whenever training camp is, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, Hayden signed through 2021.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So I mean, maybe he's just asking overall. I mean, maybe he's including 2020 and 2021. I mean, it's hard to project that with 2 years out.
Yeah, he's got some names mixed in here that probably don't need to be in here. Alejandro Villanueva, whose contract currently is set to expire after this year.
Yeah, that one's I've wrestled with. I knew that name was coming. I'm gonna lean yes. Just I don't see him letting them go.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean no on. I'm gonna lean that they move on after this year. I hope they. I mean, there's part of me that hope they does it, but I mean, look at if they draft a tackle in this year's draft that can play left tackle. Ask us after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Filer.
Well, let me go back with Villanueva, and this is I've mentioned this briefly before, and this is all obviously speculation from my part, but I can see Villanueva as one of those guys that retires, like even though he could still play, because obviously he's much more than football. He's gotten his business degree at Carnegie Mellon. He's also got a history of shoulder issues too that seem to bug the heck out of him. So I can see him just being somebody that like hangs it up after next year because he's just like I played football, I played it well, I made some money, now I'm gonna go do something else.
I agree with you too. He's put a little bit of money in the bank too.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I'm not saying it will happen again. Total speculation for me, but I can see this guy walking away basically, after next year potentially if he decides to.
Matt Filer.
I really hope so. I think
he's gone.
You think he's gone?
Yeah, I think
because
he's gone after this
too much
year.
Money?
Yeah, I think he just. I think he's a placeholder.
I don't know. I view him as more than that, but they can't keep everybody, so that's fair.
Mike Hilton.
Man. I'm leaning no, just because they like Sutton more in coverage, and Hilton's not going to be cheap as a slot corner. I love Mike Hilton, but I got to say no to somebody, so I'll go no on Hilton.
I'm saying no too. How many times on restricted tendered players do they wind up signing long-term deals the following year?
Yeah, they just lost Finney. I don't know what the math is. Yeah, I don't know, but fair point.
Any chance they extend either of those two this offseason? Probably not, right?
Hilton or Sutton?
Hilton or Filer?
I think Filer's got a better chance than Hilton, but I'm not expecting either. I'm not guaranteeing it.
Me either. I think both those guys are gone after this year. TJ Watt.
Oh, that's a slam dunk, yes.
Yeah, slam dunk. And really, we're talking about another player that, they're going to pick up his fifth-year option here pretty soon. So that, it's as I like to say, a moot point. A mute point. Let's see, Jordan Berry. It don't matter.
Yeah, moot points. That
don't matter. The two final ones. Two guys in their final years of the contract: Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner.
Yes to Juju, no to Conner.
I agree. But I don't see either one of those guys getting extensions this offseason. And I think, I think a year from now, I think we're talking about Juju possibly being on the tag.
Yeah, that's fair. Just to protect themselves to get that long-term deal.
Right. To get them to a point where they can negotiate on that. So, good question there. Let's see. Cameron writes in. Cameron from Maryland. Hey, Dave and Alex, love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Do you see the Steelers using a running back by committee this season? Connor can't stay healthy, and Benny was playing good last year. Samuels and White provide something different from the other two. Also, I know it's early. It's too early to call it, but what type of offense can you see us running next year? With Ben returning from elbow surgery, could you see a heavy run offense with quick passes and limited deep shots? Do you really see the Steelers taking a wide receiver this year? I feel like we took one every year since 2013. Keep up the good work. Stay safe. Practice social distancing.
Well, to the last point, yeah, they have taken a receiver every single year. That's why we project them to do it again, because it's what they do. They keep adding talent.
It's what they do.
To the point about the offense, I don't think it's going to change drastically. Obviously, you're going to see a fullback some this year with Derek Watt, and they're going to get their money's worth from him. But like, if you're going to transform your offense so much because you're so scared of Ben, then that's a bigger problem with Ben. So I think obviously it's going to be scaled back. He's not going to throw the ball 650 times like he did 2018. But I don't think you're going to see a dramatic change in this offense, because if it does, you got bigger problems if you can't trust your quarterback to function in your offense.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you'll see. I don't think you're going to see huge or notice huge changes in this offense.
And then with
maybe more motion.
Yeah, I mean that'd really be nice. And the committee at running back, I mean, yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to get split, but I mean Snell's going to get his touches,
right?
And we'll see if they draft anybody, and that will obviously change the equation if they do.
Thank you for the question, Cameron. Tom writes in, good morning, David and Alex. Hope you're both healthy and safe. What would your thoughts be on Clay Matthews signing 2 years, $3 million? Clay was always a Tomlin guy, still decent production compared to what we got out of Chicolo last season. Also a Bud plays only this season on the tag, then prices himself out of the Steelers market. You could have a temporary stopgap still under contract while a TJ deal gets done, then let Ola and Tuzar go at it a la two dogs, one bone. Look, I know people write about this, Tom, but to me, look, here's several things. I love Clay Matthews, the player, the person, everything about Clay Matthews. But history tells us with the Steelers and outside defensive free agents over 30 that unless you're signing them for the minimum or near minimum, and I know he throws out 2 years, $3 million out here as an example, that it's not going to happen. All right. Here's the thing: Clay Matthews is still worth more than 2 years, $3 million total. All right. Clay Matthews is probably worth about $4 or $5 million per season right now. Still, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, in the hypothetical, would I do that? Sure, but the Steelers, the history of bringing in guys 30-plus defensive side of the football, it's just not going to happen.
I don't see it. Matthews not going to give you anything on special teams. All right.
Right.
That's something Chicolo at least gave you. And I'm not going to try to compare Clay to Chicolo, okay? But remember that the Steelers expect their backup linebackers to contribute on special teams, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and Matthews is not going to help you there.
So when you throw that in, when you throw in the expected cost, when you throw in the history of the over 30 outside defensive free agents, you get to a situation where you're talking there's no way the Steelers trade a first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's just that, I'm not saying it's cataclysmic, but, I mean, it's hard in other words, we're not going to be writing an article about, the Steelers should sign Clay Matthews.
Yeah, not a chance.
All right, did I handle that fair enough?
Yeah, I think you did.
Let's see, what else do we have here? From James. Hey, David Knox, appreciate your diligence and hard work in getting through so many prospects for the upcoming class. I followed the show for years and find it the best by a wide margin. Thank you for that. Have you guys watched Michael? Oh, Lord, they love giving me the
Iowa kid?
No, the Michigan kid, the guard on We Know.
Oh, okay. No,
Michael,
I have not watched him.
The right guard.
Yeah.
I saw him at the East-West Shrine game. He seemed like a brick wall in pass pro, just not super mobile. He dropped weight from 362 to 344 at the combine, which makes me believe he knew it was a weakness. Look forward to your thoughts. I have looked at, and I'm not as big of the other guard, Ben
Bredeson.
Yeah, I'm not as high on him as most people seem to be.
Yeah, I like Bredeson. I mean, the question is just where is that ceiling at? Yeah, I haven't watched the other guy yet. I focused on Bredeson and Runyon. Maybe I'll get to him before the draft starts.
I like Runyon's prospects of moving to guard and playing guard in the NFL better than I do those Michigan two guards. Yeah. Now, obviously, I'm huge on Cesar Ruiz. I think he could play center or guard for you there. But yeah, I haven't watched him a lot, James. But and probably because of a little bit of that I saw on him, I wasn't overly impressed.
Yeah, and you said his weight was what, 360 something? You got it down, which is good, but that's going to be concerning.
What was he at the combine?
344, 6'2.5", 344. So a big body, and can he keep that weight down is going to be the issue.
And that 6'2" works against him too.
They just have really good length. It's got they're almost 34.5-inch arms. But yeah, give me Bredson, give me Runyon. Ruiz obviously headlines that group.
Let's see here. I think we got most of them out of the way. Oh, KJ Hamler from Suleiman Gilani. Suleiman Gilani. Hi, guys. David Knox. Love the show. Draft knowledge you guys have put out along with the Steelers-related content. My question in regards to the wide receiver position. If KJ Hamler is on the board when the Steelers pick, do you think he will be too good to pass up? I'm assuming he's talking about maybe at 49 overall. I think he brings a lot of speed to the offense with playmaking ability and knows how to get open and can help alleviate pressure of Juju. And with the signing of Ebron, it can open up the offense even more, as Hamler will carry a safety with him, similar to how Martavis Bryant did. What are your thoughts on Hamler and his fit with the Steelers? Thanks again for your content. For providing. Stay safe. Thank you for that email. We talked a little bit about him.
Yeah, I'll have a report on Hamler actually going up tomorrow or the next day. I just finished watching him. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's got that Tyreek Hill feel of just being this like fastest dude on the field every single game breaker. So that all makes sense from what you're describing and what he can offer, but still the lack of size and what the Steelers draft is going to really hurt him. So I don't know which direction they would go. Obviously, could they find someone with more speed? Or with similar speed that's about or a little bigger size, like a Jalen Reagor, for example. Yeah. So I think that's going to really hurt Hamler, just his very small frame.
He's fun to watch. I mean, he really is. He can get down the field, and we even talked last night on the live stream about distance down the field he was targeted and the average distance. Go look at my contextualization on SteelersDepot.com of Hamler. The thing is you're not going to get the kind of that contested catch kid out of him. He lets a lot of balls, I think, kind of get into his head and into his chest at times. So you would be drafting him just, plain and simple off of his big play ability. There's nothing wrong with that, but it might need and you worry about those undersized guys and the durability.
Right. To be fair, I have a lot of the same concerns with Jalen Reagor, for example. He's bigger, but contested ability, hands, like he's kind of similar to Hamler.
Yes. Let's see. What else? Draft Island. What is this? All right. From Tim. You guys are the best. I feel like I'm on Depot Island here, but I want to be Mr. Rourke. Alex can be Tattoo.
Don't know what that means.
Does that you not even know what that means? You've never even seen Fantasy Island.
I barely even heard of it.
Welcome to Fantasy Island. You don't. Oh Lord, the age gap here drives me crazy. Regardless, Alex can be Tattoo.
All right.
Now go Google Tattoo and Fantasy Island. Let's see. Tight end. Let's see. Depot. But I still want a tight end in the draft, and Ebron changes nothing. Pre-Ebron, I don't force a tight end, but it takes. Wait, here, let me slow down here, Dave. Pre-Ebron, I don't force a tight end, but take if value is there. Now with Ebron, the need is lower, but it shows Steelers are open to different positions. I'm not sure how many of Ebron, Vance, and Gentry will still be here in 2021. I mean, that's a great question. Would never force, but if right tight end is available in the second, third, or fourth, I'd be all over it. Could be tight end 3 as rookie with potential to step up majorly in year 2. If that's all fine and dandy, okay, Tim. But who is the guy you're going to draft there in the second, third, or fourth?
Yeah, those are all great points. I think I laid that out the other day. How great would it be to have Vance, Ebron, and that top rookie, and then by next year that top rookie's ready to play, and if one of Vance and Ebron's not here, then you replace it, and if they're all there, then that's great. They all performed well. The question is, just who do you take? And also, you only have 6 draft picks, and I think had they had 7, 8 draft picks and a lot more flexibility, you could still have tight end being in that equation, but as we've done, you got to choose one position to fall and not be taken or taken a lot lower than others. Like, you just can't take everything where you want to, ideally, and tight end, unfortunately, is kind of getting the short end of the stick.
To me, if you're going to take a tight end in the second round, it's probably Troutman or nobody.
Yeah, but I'm all for investing in this position because they got to get serious in doing it, and they haven't done it in 13 years.
Okay, let's see if we can get one more in here from LM or from Mott. You guys are the best. I keep thinking offensive tackle or an offensive tackle, offensive or slash offensive guard is just as big a need as interior OG slash center lineman. I want both. I just keep thinking Filer at guard means Al, Chooks and Banner at tackle. Chooks and Banner not proven and could be Al's last year. Who are your top couple of offensive targets at 49? Cleveland Barch types. Are you open to offensive tackle at 49 if ranked higher than offensive guard slash center? I think it's going to be a boring draft. Offensive line and defensive line, and quite frankly, I hope so. Thanks for continuing to give us something to listen to.
I said this on the live stream last night that I've become more open to offensive tackle than I was maybe a couple weeks ago. For the reasons you mentioned, Banner is in the last year of his contract to him. That was just a one-year deal as well, and Filer and Villanueva in the same boat. So uncertainty there. So yeah, I think you can be focused on just getting talent. I've still leaned in taking an interior guy over an offensive tackle because Filer obviously can kick back out if need be, at least for this year. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Ezra Cleveland fan. I don't think he's going to be there at 49. Ben Barch is interesting. A D3 kid is a projection there, but dominated the Senior Bowl. Had a really good week before getting hurt, I think, late in that week. So, and we've talked about, obviously, the interior guys like Ruiz and Cushenberry and Hennessy and Damian Lewis from LSU.
Cleveland's, Cleveland to me, where does the line end at potential guys that would be available at 49 that they would take? I mean, Cleveland's pretty much it, isn't he?
What do you mean by where the line ends? In terms of just what guys make sense? What
guys make sense there at, and assuming none of those other guys fall.
Right. You got Cleveland. Matt Pert from UConn is a really long dude that got some comparisons to DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Cleveland at 49, if he was there, though, he would be very, very tempting.
I'm trying to look at where some of the...
I mean, Isaiah Wilson, but I think he's probably going to be gone from Georgia.
Well, what about Mekhi Becton?
Well, he's going to be like a top 15, top 20 pick.
Josh Jones?
You think he's... Yeah, if he slips, I think he's probably going to be gone by 49.
I mean, you've got Thomas from Georgia, Willis from Alabama going to be gone, Wirfs from Iowa going to be gone. I mean,
Lucas Niang from TCU, maybe. Yeah, that's a name at least to consider being in that range. He's got some injury issues.
I mean, once again, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. I think they could just as easily draft a tackle probably as early as maybe a guard center type. So
Sadiq Charles from LSU, played left tackle, has some off-field concerns, but another name to throw out there.
All right, I think we beat this one up pretty good now.
Yeah, good show today.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button up right at the navigational bar to donate via PayPal. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to the site and hit the ad-free button. Upright navigational bar for $25 for 1 calendar year. You can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, and a lot of people are taking advantage of that. Once again, thanks for everybody that donate to the site. Thanks for everybody to everybody who listens to the site, supports and visits SteelersDepot.com on a regular basis. We certainly do appreciate it. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to try to effort to have maybe Dave T on that show. We'll try, but obviously at some point between now and the draft, try to have Dave T on the show there. So in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.